All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. That's the talk line number, 540-0580. I want to get your legal question answered here on the air. Fire away, 540-0580. What do I want to talk to you guys about? Well, while we're getting some callers here, 540-0580. Did you see that the state of Pennsylvania is defending the Voter ID Act? And, of course, they went to court, and if you've been following it, the people have sued saying that it's discriminatory and that the Voter ID Act should not be held against people who don't have photo IDs, like 750,000 people in the state. And I know it seems to be of some interest to folks listening to WHP 580 here. But I found that the state entered into a stipulation. I don't know if anybody else saw this or not, but the state actually entered into a stipulation whereby we have agreed that the state knows of no individual voter fraud whatsoever. And so what the state essentially has said is that in defending it, let me read the stipulation. There have been no investigations or prosecutions of in-person voter fraud in Pennsylvania, and the parties don't have direct personal knowledge of any such investigations or prosecutions. Parties are not aware of any incidents of in-person voter fraud in Pennsylvania and do not have direct personal knowledge of in-person voter fraud elsewhere. They will not offer any evidence that in-person voter fraud has had in fact occurred in Pennsylvania or elsewhere, and they will not offer any evidence or argument that in-person voter fraud is likely to occur in the November 2012 elections in absence of photo ID law. So basically, the state of Pennsylvania agreed that everything the other side is saying is basically true, that the law is completely unnecessary. And you may ask, why is that? Well, one of the components of that stipulation I didn't read you was the final one, or second to last one, which said, neither the governor nor the attorney general shall testify or have to testify in this matter. I'm suspicious that they horse-traded the ability not to take the stand and talk about it in exchange for giving the other side exactly what they wanted, which is a admission that Pennsylvania can't prove nor has any knowledge of any voter fraud whatsoever. So that's very interesting in the context of that act, and I think we should pay attention to it. It also means this stipulation is going to come back and haunt Pennsylvania, even if they are successful in the state litigation, because once the state litigation's over, it'll be going to federal court. So I'll be curious to see what people think about the PA voter photo ID bill, and if you're aware of the stipulation. 540-0580. Of course, if you have a legal question you want to get it answered, we'll do it here on the air. Shane, do I have my list of things I'm supposed to remind everybody about somewhere around here? Okay, you're going to get it for me? Cool. I do know that I'm going to, the one I can do off the top of my head is if you want to get a free Rominger & Associates mug, you go to the Carlisle Bakery, ask for a large coffee, and they'll give you a free mug. And I know a few people have taken advantage of that because we had to restock them recently with mugs. So I know that's going pretty well. They're pretty nice mugs, too. 540-0580. And, of course, in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, feel free to go to the website, romingerlaw.com. And check in there, and you'll be able to find us. Hey, Shane, forget about that. Get the phone. I got to keep this kid on task. 540-0580. Seriously, though, go to romingerlaw.com, and that will allow you to learn a little bit more about the firm and the various attorneys that we have. I think that's a great way. You can learn a little bit more about what we can do for you. And, of course, I kind of jokingly say if you can hear this signal, then you're in our service area. I also want to remind you guys we do have a lot of exclusive Facebook content on my page that we've been putting up. I've been answering some legal questions on there as well. I always find that interesting, what people have to say. And, of course, I get a lot of private messages, and I'll answer those as well. George, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl.
What's going on?
Hey, got a question for you.
Yeah.
That's why I called, right?
And sometimes people just call to tell me things, too.
Oh, okay. I made a personal car loan to someone, non-interest bearing. It's a family member. And I was just curious, when people make car loans, banks make car loans, is there a clause in there if something should happen with them or they pass away or something?
Well, usually what happens in the car loan is the person puts themselves on the title, right?
Right.
So if the other person passes away, the lien holder still has the interest in the title.
Okay.
That would be the wisest thing to do. Now, you can still sue the estate as if you could sue the individual, but proof of ownership for titled property is, of course, the best evidence is the title, right?
Yeah, well, I'm named on the title as lien holder.
Oh, okay, then you're in great shape.
Don't have to have a separate statement saying, if someone passes away.
No. You're still a lien holder on the title, and the estate's going to have to satisfy that lien before they can change the title over to anybody.
Well, this estate is practically sue-proof.
Right.
No assets.
Well, then, but you have what we call a secured interest in the car.
Right.
So you get to take the car and sell it yourself to satisfy the lien interest. And if you can't if you satisfy the lien interest, any excess money goes back to the estate. And if there's any deficiency judgment, to the extent that there's a deficiency, then you're probably still not getting that because the estate's judgment proof.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks for your help.
All right. Good luck, brother.
Bye.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. I'm a lawyer here in the Mid-State. Brian, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, Carl, I've got a quick question here for you. Hopefully it's a simple answer. My son resides in North Carolina, and he is living with his girlfriend, and they have a child together. She has been seeking psychiatric help.
Okay.
And not at this point it's not been deemed that she's been a danger to the child, but she has to be watched closely. They're saying it's possible postpartum.
Okay.
My question is, now there is no custody per se. His name is on the birth certificate. If he decided to come to Pennsylvania with the child, does he have legal? Is he kidnapping, or if he feels that the relationship to the child is in danger, does he have a right to pack the belongings and bring the child to Pennsylvania and raise the child here?
Well, and the child lives where right now?
North Carolina.
And how long has the child been in North Carolina?
What's that?
How long has the child been down in North Carolina?
It's 3 months old.
Okay. Well, theoretically, 6 months in a state creates jurisdiction. When you have newborns, we usually say where the child was born and where they currently reside is probably the state with jurisdiction. If he were to run off with the kid, I suppose she could file something in North Carolina. My advice to him would be to file something down there for a custody action and ask for permission to move up here with the child.
Okay.
But it would depend on how severe, the mother's psychiatric or psychological condition is.
Right. Because he thought about just coming here and filing for custody here as the custodial parent. But I didn't know if Pennsylvania acknowledges North Carolina law, or North Carolina acknowledges Pennsylvania law.
At this stage, because you're not 6 months in, theoretically jurisdiction goes anywhere. But because the child's underage, there's some rules for sorting that out. And I believe where the child spent the majority of its life and where it was born is where the jurisdiction is going to lie. Although Pennsylvania would pick up jurisdiction pretty quickly if they moved up here. But if she wants to file down there, she's going to drag him back. My advice usually is to go to the court first and not just take unilateral action, because otherwise, you're going to end up with police involvement and all kinds of problems.
Exactly, and that's what we want. We want to do above board. We want it legal. We don't want any criminal action or anything like that. But the interest right now is for the child. That's why he's staying in the relationship with her. They declared it postpartum, but apparently he said there were signs of some things before, but he never really things have gotten worse since the child.
Yeah, so he needs to consult with a lawyer down there. Is he living in North Carolina right now?
Yes,
he should consult with a lawyer down there and see whether that lawyer thinks he should take it to Pennsylvania, whether they should file locally down there and then try to move it to Pennsylvania. And of course, court may not find that she's an unfit mother. It just depends what her diagnosis is.
Correct.
All right.
Exactly. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Good luck.
Yep.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Just want to remind you, on August 25th from 2 to 3 p.m., I'm going to have David Nesbitt on from Keystone Elder Law talking about elder law issues. So mark that August 25th calendar of yours. It'll be a Saturday afternoon appointment. We'll call it a weekend appointment, in fact, 2 to 3 p.m. on August 25th with David Nesbitt from Keystone Elder Law. And on Tuesday, September 4th at 7 p.m., I will be speaking live at the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers Association on gun rights and gun laws. That's open to the public on September 4th at 7 p.m. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. When we come back from break, we will talk to Jim and Dave, 540-0580. See you in a minute. Hey, welcome back. 540-0580. Just answering your legal questions here on this warm but overcast Saturday. Jim, what's going on, Jim?
Hey, Carl, how are you?
Good.
Hey, got a question for you. We have a local private gun club in our neighborhood, and basically the membership is growing out of control, plus the amount of shooting is out of control. And what my question is basically, can a municipality, namely a township, do they have the ability to like rezone them or even pass any kind of ordinances to change the times that they're allowed to shoot based on that they're a private club?
Well, anything that the township would do now would seem to be after the fact. And so in terms of a zoning regulation or something along those lines, I don't think that would be retroactive, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, it does.
So I think they're grandfathered in there. Now, we talked about this with Spur and Sun City. Somebody else called in, and maybe the same gun club.
It probably is. It was probably my neighbor a couple weeks ago, but it's like I said, we're not getting any answers from them. And we contacted the township, and they're saying there's nothing we can do prospectively that's going to change anything, right? Well, the township's looking because they're getting a lot of complaints. But again, they were more going to talk amongst themselves or talk to their attorneys or whatever to see if there's anything. Mm-hmm. But again, everything's dragging feet. But just wondering if again, the gun club was there first. Everyone understands that, but it was a small private gun club, and now it's grown probably 300% in the last 6-7 years. Right. And that's what I was wondering if the township has any backbone to. I
don't think they have many tools they can use in that circumstance.
Can they pass any kind of ordinances? Because they have a thing in the township in the ordinances to say, sort of like a peace of mind and being allowed to, enjoy because we're out in the country. Mm-hmm. Is there anything they could do to come back to the gun club and say, hey, your hours of operation are from this time to this time?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, when you do zoning regulation, which is the township's main power on over the use of land, mm-hmm. You can't retroactively zone something that's already in existence. In terms of safety regulations, like say building codes and et cetera, mm-hmm. you can go retroactive on safety measures on building codes. Or say not go retroactive, but you can apply them to anybody.
Yeah, and mine, again, I don't think as far as what they have over there is against the law or against.
That's what I mean. So I'm feeling like you're probably stuck. Maybe there's an attorney. I might be able to chit chat him up here on Facebook. I know he's on right now because he just sent me something. He might have the answer to this. So I'll bug him, and we'll see during the show. If you pay attention, I'll try to come back to it. But off the top of my head, I think you guys are stuck in the private nuisance suit arena.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, the nuisance thing, because I don't have the township bylaws in front of me, but I did read them, and it basically said if there's anything, and it doesn't have to be a decibel level or anything like that, but if something, portrays a nuisance to the neighborhood as far as quality of life, then, that's something the township can act on. Right.
And of course, I'm wondering, too, of course, the history of the township. I assume that a lot of people in the gun club are locals?
No.
No? Well, so maybe...
In fact, the president probably lives a half hour away.
Gotcha.
No, so it's sort of like the out of sight, out of mind thing. It's, there's one local board member and the rest of them live elsewhere.
Right. Interesting. Well, these always create problems because you guys are coming to the nuisance, right? And I hear what you're saying. You're saying the scope and nature of the nuisance has changed from what we expected it to be.
No, it's changed dramatically from what it was. I mean, we moved here full well knowing and until 3 years ago I was a member of the gun club myself, mm-hmm. but it's gotten to the point now with these different again, I have no problem with the gun club there. I mean, they were there first, and it's not that bothersome, except to the point of going from under 400 members to over 1,200. Excuse me, in the last 5 years, there's no peace and quiet.
What's making them so popular?
Don't know. I mean, I'm guessing they have a
Obama.
No, don't get me started there. No, I mean it's a nice range. I mean it's a nice public range. The prices are reasonable, and I think locally there's been a couple other ranges, more public ranges that have closed down, things like that. And but the thing is now they do these different shooting competitions and this and that, and they're offering Whack and Hut Security and all these other private companies and people to come in and use their facilities for free too. Like the local police departments, they have their night shoots. I have no problem with that at all. That's understandable.
Wait. I'm going to call you out on that one for one second. This reminds me out there in Wisconsin when they said, "Oh, we're going to get rid of public employee unions, but it's okay for firefighters and policemen." Now, if you don't like shooting at night, it doesn't matter whether it's the police or me, right? I mean, does it really?
The thing is, the ordinance is you can't shoot past sunset, and like we've had some problems with private people, but you might have it, four nights out of a year, six nights out of a year at it's the two local police departments back there because they shoot basically like 8:30 to 9:30, but it's a barrage then it's done. It's a barrage then it's done. But everyone around here knows that's the police departments back there, and like I said, it's maybe 6 nights out of the year, so it's not an all the time in the. Right.
You got to be careful though if you're going to try to make a case. If you're going to try to make a case that you don't want shooting after certain hours, but then start saying, "Well, it's okay for this guy to do it, or it's okay for that guy to do it." I think that dilutes your case a little bit. So,
well, it's not as much as the sunset thing's not as bad as the shooting before their 8 a.m. start time, which happens pretty much. But it's just the amount of shooting, the amount of membership they have there now. You go outside on the weekend. It is, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., nothing but absolute constant shooting.
Right.
It never was like that before.
Okay, well, I'm interested. You guys keep following up on this. I'll be curious to see where you go because I guess the second call we've gotten on this range. What township are we talking about?
It's Fairview Township.
Okay.
I'm calling from outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yep. All right, my friend.
Yeah, hey, other thing, too, is as far as attorney things go, and again, if we're barking up a tree that, we have no business barking up, that, it's a moot point. But as far as, like, forming, like, a citizens group to, and actually having an attorney backing, is there, like, a major cost to that, would you know? Or
I mean, yeah, if you're going to, well, it depends what the gun club wants to do. But, if you guys are going to fight, you could be looking at legal bills of anywhere between, $3,000 and $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more.
To the point, there's a lot of neighborhoods, and then the people on the other side of the mountain. That's the big one. Is they're getting because they have these targets out beyond the rifle range that are like gongs, and they're getting. I guess they're ricocheting over the mountain, but there's a handful of people on the other side of the mountain that are getting bullets. Not the bullets, but the shrapnel and stuff.
Right. Interesting.
That's landing on the other side of the mountain. So
very interesting. Go keep us posted.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time.
All right, man, thanks.
All right, have a great one.
And, we've talked about this before. Coming to the nuisance, as much as an annoyance as it is allowed as a cause of action. So it's not called that, but, in other words, if I want to file a nuisance, I can say, well, they were there first, but the nature and quality or the scope of the community's changed. There's legal precedent for that, which is why Pennsylvania and some other states have passed these laws that protect agricultural actions, normal agricultural actions, from nuisance suits to give some immunity there. Precisely because of these coming to the nuisance cases that had cropped up over the years. Dave, you're on the air with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, hi, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
Hot, humid day, and I'm sitting on my swing here, drinking hot coffee out of this beautiful green mug that says Rominger and Associates.
Oh, congratulations. Where'd you get that?
Just listened to you, and I did exactly what you said.
Oh, cool.
So the thing I wanted to ask you, first of all, Carl, I want to say that I was hanging in there with you with that ordeal of a trial that you all had, and I think from the time of preparation, I think you did a mighty good job.
Well, thank you very much.
I have actually two questions, but the first one, I just recently found out that my nephew his nephew's girlfriend was going to have a child in a month or so.
Right.
Now, what name do they, if they don't get married, does it have to be the mother's last name that goes on there?
No, you can put anybody's last name on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I know this for a fact.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. And the other one is, I noticed this, just a house away, this kid is shooting his pump BB gun all the time. Are you allowed to do that in a jurisdiction?
Are they using the gun? He's using the BB gun where?
Well, he's got a target in his yard, and he's shooting at that, and I see him shooting up in the trees, and you know.
Well, generally speaking, like, if in the borough of Carlisle, there's no firearms discharge. Which includes bows and BB guns.
Oh, I see. We're in Wormleysburg.
Yeah, so you'd have to have if you have an ordinance on it, then no, he couldn't be doing that.
Well, look, thanks for the information, and keep up the good work.
Good luck. The other thing you could do would maybe go over there and talk with him and the parents and get some, here's what a proper backstop looks like. Here's what a proper target looks like. Good luck, right?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, man.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Carl. See ya.
540-0580. Dwayne, you're on the air.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember about back in November or so, I called.
Yeah.
About I got attacked and beat up, and the Newberry pigs arrested me. Finally had the trial. I was found not guilty on everything. But now how do I got to go back and recoup my money for the lawyer and everybody I talked to about that? They want more money, and they're saying they probably won't get it. I was like, well, what about the police department for pushing an issue where I was at home and these other derelicts didn't even belong at my place?
Right. Now, here's the question. And this is why I say this. The question then becomes, did you give the let me ask it this way. You were falsely arrested?
I feel that way.
Okay. Well, you may have what's called a 1983 action, and that's where you would sue the police department for malicious prosecution or falsely arresting you.
Yeah.
And maybe if there's excessive use of force because you were beat up. And that's the only way you're going to recoup any money.
Yeah. And, okay, thanks. I got two other comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
I live near that firing range.
Okay.
And you know what? What I think is a more nuisance, because I lived in this area pretty much all my life, is all the damn development that's been going around here for 30 years. So if you don't like it, guess what? You moved here. Move the hell away.
Yeah. Well, and
you know what? Who cares if some kid's shooting a BB gun in their yard? It's their yard. Don't worry about it. Now, if you shoot through your window, yeah, you go over there and punch.
Yeah, and if he's shooting unsafely, I think that was the issue that fellow had. But listen, I
shoot birds all the time.
I agree with you though in a way, which is if you move, I always like because people go, well, when I moved to the sewer plant, I always thought it was just going to be a small sewer plant and that the wind usually blew to the west, and now the wind's blowing a little more differently, and the sewer plant expanded, and some of that's kind of foreseeable. There's an argument there, but the flip side is this concept of coming to the nuisance is that as the character of the land changes. So I guess if I had a strip club / brothel / rendering plant somewhere out in the countryside, and pretty soon they build a school across from me and they build all these suburbs around me, I guess at some point they're probably going to claim I'm a nuisance.
Well, I think they're a nuisance for building around you.
But you got a good argument right there.
Like right where the firing range is, a couple miles away, there's a Susquehanna Speedway. Same thing. Morons moved there.
Hey, let me explain.
The track's been there since the 40s.
I got to go to break here, but let me leave you one last thought, which is for every soccer mom complaining about development destroying the environment, looking around her beautiful little community that used to be farmland, the hypocrisy is lost, all right? All right, my friend, take care. I got to go to break. Oh, good Lord. Oh, boy. Now, I was listening to The River earlier, and I heard JC telling the story about turning his radio up on the police, and he wonders why that got him in trouble. Well, I don't recommend it. I did see, however, that you can now order these tactical bleeding zombie shooting targets, so you can get ready for the zombie apocalypse. Maybe we should get one and go to the range. In fact, I think I know which range we're going to go to, Shane. Seriously, though, I just got a message from attorney Nathan C. Wolf, very famous Carlisle attorney, Wolf & Wolf, good friend of mine, friend of the show. In fact, he's been on the show here to talk about land use, etc., and he suggested that perhaps this gun club and the neighbors go to neighborhood dispute mediation services. So, of course, I happened to pop them up right on my Facebook page. It's called Neighborhood Dispute Settlement. It's a central Pennsylvania organization that serves Dauphin and Cumberland counties, and they do dispute resolution between neighbors and try to help people work out resolutions everybody can live with where court action might not solve anybody's problem. here's the issue: if this gun club and these neighbors go to court and they lose, and either side loses, then the other side wins absolutely. So if the gun club loses, they're shut down. If the other side wins, the gun club's going to start shooting at midnight. It's just not going to work out well for either side to roll the dice, so to speak. So, with that in mind, if they want to go to a neighborhood dispute resolution service like that, or through other kind of mediation, but this is something that's been in place. So it's on my Facebook page. I just posted it. It's Neighborhood Dispute Settlement. If you guys want to check it out, just amble on by. If you're not a friend on my Facebook page, just friend me and you'll be able to see it if it's not made public, or however those privacy settings work that nobody understands because Facebook doesn't want you to understand. Please take a look at it, Neighborhood Dispute Settlement, and that may help these folks. So maybe the gun club and them can be brought together to avoid. And that's the other thing, you're not going to have to spend $20,000 in litigation. Instead, you get the representatives of the club together, you get the neighborhood people together, and we let these guys work out a settlement to solve the problem. So anyhow, the talk line number is 540-0580. If you have a legal question you want to get answered here on the air, just call in and we'll do it. For those of you that are just joining us, I want to give you a reminder. I'll be like Rush. Rush, you can always hear him crinkling the paper. If you stop in at the Carlisle Bakery, which one of our callers did earlier, you can get a Rominger mug. Not a picture of me, but an actual hot, cold mug that just says Rominger and Associates on it. For free if you purchase a large coffee at the Carlisle Bakery. That's at 35 South Hanover Street in Carlisle. They're open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. On August 25th, from 2 to 3 p.m., I'm going to have an elder law specialist on with me, David Nesbitt, and I can call him a specialist even though he can't. He'll be on at 2 o'clock on August 25th, so mark your calendars. And on Tuesday, September 4th at 7 p.m., I'm giving a live talk on gun rights and what to do with the gun laws. A little bit about self-defense, the whole 9 yards. Take your questions, and that's going to be at the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers at 7 p.m. on September 4th. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. Again, the talk line number today is 540-0580, and of course, you need to get hold of me throughout the week. You just go to romingerlaw.com or my Facebook page, and we can go from there. I also wanted to, what else did I want to talk to you guys about? Well, I mentioned earlier, we have this ongoing voter ID lawsuit going on here in Pennsylvania. It'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. I do agree with the basic fundamental theory that pretty much it shouldn't be hard to have a photo ID to get your vote counted. On the other hand, I'm more concerned about these new electronic machines. Does anybody else have any problems with these electronic voting machines where there seems to be no paper trail? I go push a bunch of buttons now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take an iPad. I'm going to make it look like you hit a bunch of buttons and it says vote accepted. I don't see any totals change. Nobody sees any proof of it. I just have to believe that the people running the voting system are telling me the truth. But there's no paper to go back and look at. There's no photographs or video of what the people entered. There's no independent verification. There's no stubs. I just don't understand how that works and why nobody seems to have a problem with it. Because it's not individual voter fraud that's the real problem. That's why on the other side of the argument is these laws are kind of silly. And why I say these voter laws are kind of silly is the real voter fraud is not, I am going to go cast a vote for somebody and I'm going to vote twice in this election by driving to 2 different counties. And by voting twice, I will swing the election. We all know that a couple votes don't really swing elections realistically. It's wholesale voter fraud. And to me, these electronic machines and the non-transparency that they create is what invites, in my mind, more voter fraud. But I don't know. You have to trust the government that they're locked down tight. You have to trust the people in charge. And, in Russia and Iran, and according to a lot of the callers to the Durgan Show in Philadelphia, you can't trust the people who run the elections. Now, I heard Terry Madonna say on the Durgan Show the other day, you can pretty much trust everybody involved in the election process for the most part. And I don't disagree with that. But the flip side is if there's no transparency, how will we know when you can no longer trust those folks? 540-0580. Joyce, you're on the air. Hi, Joyce.
Hi. I hired a contractor, and he did a terrible job and left us in a mess. And I think he left town. He didn't finish his work, and he didn't pay some of his subcontractors.
Yeah, that's no good.
So my question is, can we take him to small claims court?
Absolutely. You'd have to just sue him, but you got to find him to serve him, right?
Well, that's That's what I'm. That's what I'm wondering. We have to find him first, don't we?
Yeah. Now, in small claims, that's the way you would need to do it. In the big courthouse, you could serve him by publication or other notice if a judge deems that he's hiding or can't otherwise be found. The problem then becomes, even if you win, which you'll win by default if he's nowhere to be found, is how do you execute the judgment against him?
That's it. And we did talk to an attorney in Harrisburg, and she said that it's not enough to pay the attorney's fees, and that it would cost us more to pursue it than it's worth.
Joyce, that would probably be my inclination as well, so I think you got sound advice.
So what about like a district attorney's office?
I would talk to your district attorney. What county are you in?
Cumberland.
Yeah, call Dave Freed's office over there. My favorite candidate for attorney general. I'm definitely going to vote for him for attorney general, and I recommend everybody who listens.
hr1 is that?
Yes, and he's the main guy. I would call him and let him know. Maybe the county detectives. They may refer you to the attorney general's office. That's Linda Kelly, but she's of course not running for attorney general.
They said that too, but they said that would take months.
Yeah, that'll take forever. But those are your only two best remedies.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Small claims, what's the top limit you can claim?
12,000.
12,000, and that's the same at a DJ's office?
That's what we mean by small claims in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right, Joyce. Hey, thanks for listening.
Okay.
Take care. 540-0580. Jeff, you want to talk to me about some voting machines? What's going on, Jeff?
Hi, yes, I really agree with what you're saying about the lack of transparency. Whether or not the people who are actually conducting the elections are trustworthy, no doubt they are in most cases. I believe in the saying, I think I first heard Ronald Reagan use the saying when he was talking about the Russians, we trust, but we verify. And I think everything should be verifiable, and I think that's the problem that you point out with the electronic voting machines now, is there doesn't seem to be an ability to verify.
Right. No, I agree 100%.
So, yeah, I think that saying really, from back in the 80s, that really applies to a lot of things, and that we may have trustworthy people that we're encountering, but we know that just something that we do routinely, no matter how much we trust someone, is verify.
Right. Right, and that's kind of that's one of my issues with it. And I guess I have a lot of issues with it. But I'm always afraid. How do I know that when I walk out of there that my vote was really recorded or not?
Right.
And I have no ability to verify that. I mean, before, and even the people there, I don't even know how do they verify. The nice little old ladies that are always at the table counting everybody for the Republicans and the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
How do they know who we're voting for? Or I guess they could get a total number of people that were there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I don't know.
I'm really not sure myself, but I do agree with you that anything that makes it less verifiable is something that definitely is problematic. Something we have to be concerned about. And
they just look at me and say, "But it's very high tech," and I go, "All right, yeah." So are the thumb scanners that the Brazilian government uses to track your entry in and out of government buildings. So it doesn't mean it's necessarily the best free of society. All right.
Not necessarily be improved.
Right. All made by American companies, by the way. So,
right.
So they can deploy it in America immediately. All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
540-0580. I'll see you guys after the break. Oh, boy, at my age, I don't think I need any of the products they advertise here on WHP 580. I mean, really? All right. What can you do? 540-0580 is the talk line number. Oh, boy. How long are we going to play that bumper music for? I don't know. I'm just trying to see how long Shane can keep his thumb. He's good. All right, get rid of that. Oh, he's going to fill it up. All right, Shane. That's enough.
Uh-oh. We've drawn Judge Snyder.
Is that bad?
Well, he's had it in for me ever since I kind of ran over his dog.
You did?
Well, replace the word kinda with the word repeatedly and the word dog with son.
Oh, my goodness. Dwayne, you're on the air.
Yeah, when you were talking about the voters, I stayed after this past election where I was working that poll and stayed, and they do something that with the computer that talliates everything, and there is a paper there that records every vote, and they take it out and they tally it up there, and I guess they fill out some paperwork because I stayed to get the results of the voting place that I was at.
Now, does the machine itself have like a piece of paper that comes out of it?
Yeah, now I also heard there's like 3 different machines being used here in Pennsylvania too, so they're not all the same.
Huh. Interesting.
But there is like a paper there, and I don't know what yours are, at least the one that I use, there is a paper there that records stuff. But like you said, and I said from the beginning, as soon as whatever you vote for, if they can have a thing there for them, they should be able to print out a copy for us to know.
Right.
But
all right, my friend, thank you very much for the field information.
Yep.
540-0580. Nick, what's going on, Nick?
Carl. Hey, Carl, we really like your show. It's always a good time, good stuff. Listen, a couple of weeks ago I was online and I found some just an online photo gallery of some guys who were being executed in their last meals that were published.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, why would you publish that, and where did that tradition begin? And I thought you'd be the man to tell me that. So I'm going to hang up and let you answer that. Thanks, man.
It's a stumper. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know where the theory of last meals came from, because I read an article because recently one of the states stopped giving people anything they wanted for the last meal due to budgetary restraints, and so of course it can only it can only cost what, $18 for the bucket of fried chicken, or maybe $27 for the greasy steak, whatever. But apparently they were cutting back, and so there was some information in there, and I don't think anybody seems to know exactly where that tradition arose. But if we go back in time, we'll remember that public executions were the norm, and then across the South, particularly in American history, there was a lot of mob executions as well. But when the states have done it, people have always wanted to know. So when Mary Queen of Scots, was executed, for instance, I think she was allowed to read a letter or do some things, and there was all this whole ceremony. And I suspect that the original origins are simply from back when there were public executions. And just like on The Bachelorette, when everybody wants to follow it all the way up to the selection, you have to have all the pomp and circumstance. What the person ate became a point of interest and a titillation to the crowd. That's what I suspect, but who knows? It's probably lost in the mist of time exactly where that comes from. But somebody listening might want to Google it and call it and tell us it. I guess we could Google it during the break and see what Dr. Google thinks, which will probably stick us on Wikipedia, and the Wikipedia post will probably be done by a 12-year-old from Detroit, so it's probably not that accurate anyhow. But who knows? Who knows the answer to that? Capital punishment is probably not going to be with us for much longer, if I had to guess, here in America. It seems like it's trending out, even though it's popular with the public. The reality is, since nobody actually executes anybody, and I think a good example is going to be this kid from Colorado. Yeah, he'll be on death row. He'll be on death row when I'm dead, if I had to guess. They haven't killed anybody in Colorado since we determined last week, 1997, Shane? Was that what we came up with? 78, well, they got their death penalty back in the 70s, but they've only killed one person since then. But they have 3 currently pending, but I'm pretty sure the 90s was the last time they actually executed anybody. Now, when's the last time Pennsylvania executed anybody? We know the answer to that. A heck of a long time ago, unless you volunteer, because the Third Circuit Court of Appeals doesn't seem to allow death penalty cases to move forward. Only people that really execute people efficiently these days are the Chinese, and of course they execute you for any old reason at all. In fact, a lot of countries that we would consider barbaric or backwards, or where universal rights aren't as great as here, have abolished the death penalty. So I always think it's interesting. I have no fundamental problem with the death penalty. My concern becomes that the trial process is so messy, and if you've ever participated in a trial or actually watched it, you would realize that it's so messy, and sometimes the information that's conveyed to the jury is not accurate, or their decisions are wrong. it's interesting because even if you prove somebody guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, the judge will tell the jury that the person can be innocent and still be convicted. And people say, what do you mean by that? And I remember I had a client who, of course, had been convicted by a jury and maintained his innocence, and the judge was getting down on him about it and saying, you were convicted, you need to accept responsibility for what you did. And, of course, me being clever and just want to get yelled at some more by the judge, I said, well, Your Honor, you told the jury they could convict him even if he was innocent. You told the jury, as I recall, they don't need to prove guilt beyond all doubt to a mathematical certainty, nor does the impossibility of innocence have to be precluded. And so actually the jury's verdict is consistent with my client's belief. And the judge kind of smirked a little bit and said, all right, I grant you that. Don't think it made him real happy, but the point was that theoretically and actually in reality, as most jurors are told, beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean you're absolutely certain that the person's guilty. It just means that you're convinced to a certain legal standard, which is why hundreds of people have been convicted by jurors are ultimately acquitted later or exonerated 100% and sometimes even released. A couple of them died in prison, and those are just in major cases. Think of all the minor convictions. It's estimated that thousands of people are falsely convicted every year in Pennsylvania, the United States. It's not a high percentage of the people who go on trial, but nonetheless, jurors who go home and feel that they made the best decision they can should know at least that there's some mathematical certainty that some percentage of who they convict are going to be innocent. And that's the problem of trial in general. I want you to think about what a trial is all about. A trial is not all about what actually happened. It's about trying to figure out what actually happened using adversarial process where each side has certain burdens and rules. And the result is it's not going to be a blow-by-blow videotape of what actually happened. It's going to be what the best evidence shows. All right, guys, as you know, we're on here for another hour, so we'll be back answering questions live, 540-0580, so it's not too late to call and get another hour to get your questions answered here on the air. Of course, throughout the week, go to RomingerLaw.com or join me on Facebook. It's Carl with a K, Rominger, Rominger. Jump on Facebook and friend me, and you can get our exclusive content there as well.